Hey, hey, welcome to the Summit Host Hangout podcast where you'll learn how to plan, strategize, and launch your profitable online summit. No influencer status necessary. I'm your host, Krista from Summit in a Box, and I'm here today with a special guest who's going to talk to us about using a virtual summit to build your brand authority and how creating an incredible attendee experience ties into that. To give you some background information on our guest, she helps course creators launch virtual summits to become authority figures in their industry while elevating their influence and profit. She hosted her first virtual event in 2018 and operated her own event planning and design business for 3 years before that. And now she focuses on bringing virtual events from plan to execution. So without further ado, let's dive in and talk with Tyaisha Robinson. Welcome, Tyaisha. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for the awesome introduction, by the way.
I'm serious. I'm so excited to have you. This is going to be so fun. I love nerding out about summits with other women who help people with summits because it's hard for me to find other women. So this is going to be great. Before we dive into all this goodness, tell us a little bit more about you and your business.
What did you not share already? But just to elaborate on that, like you said, I started doing virtual summits, around 2 years ago. And it was really, for me at the time, strictly a means of me trying something different. And I needed to grow my community. I was fairly new and just trying to put myself out there. And the response was amazing. People really enjoyed the format. People were starting to ask hey, can you help me do something similar for my business? And so that's when I completely shifted my business model, because prior to, I was really focusing on in-person events and launch events and networking things, all of that nature. So when people were like, hey, I really like this, I'm like, okay, I think this is my new jam. And I've been in love with it ever since. My background, educational background anyway, is in project management. So I'm such a nerd, systems person, very type A, as anyone that knows me will tell you. So being able to use those skills and still be creative with a virtual summit, it was like the perfect marriage. So I've been having a good time.
Oh my goodness. I love that your background is in project management. That could not be any more perfect for a massive project like a summit. So perfect fit. Something I loved about your bio is that you help course creators become authority figures in the industry through virtual summits. So why do you think it is that virtual summits are so great at building that brand authority for them?
So I think virtual summits are great at building brand authority because of its unique position to create exposure. You think about, the first obvious one, it's hosted online. So the amount of people that you could potentially get in front of can be endless, so that would be the first one. And then two, just the amount of connections you're going to make while hosting that virtual summit. So, you think about your lineup of speakers, and their network. So now you're going to get in front of their audience that you may have never otherwise had an opportunity to get in front of to, speak to your value, whatever your jam is, the transformation you take them through, and just being able to be seen as okay, so if I have that problem that she's talking about, she's the only person I keep seeing talking about it. So I'm likely going to go to her to get this problem solved. So just the unique ability of creating additional exposure, being online, connecting you with other speakers, and being able to, speak to, your transformation.
Yeah, for sure. And the power of bringing in those speakers who lend some of their authority juice to you, kind of in a way, telling their people hey, this person is cool enough for me to speak in their summit, and having, let's say, even a smaller summit with 10, 15 speakers, even that is powerful. And you also mentioned the online aspect. Another thing I love about the online aspect is there's no barriers. So many people try to host in-person events to do this, and it's great. In-person events are cool, but there's so many barriers for as far as travel, people being able to work in their schedule, money, and none of that exists when it comes to a virtual summit.
No, you can be in your onesie on the couch, on your computer, obtaining all the knowledge from some amazing speakers. That's the thing. I'm glad you mentioned that because, in-person events have definitely come to a halt now. But overall, you think about that travel piece, what if, there's been some pretty dope speakers I wish I could have went to their conference, but hey, it was happening in Miami at a time that I couldn't get there, or, you know, or whatever, just didn't make sense for my lifestyle. So being able to still present something so people can still get the information, I think is dope. And everybody is doing, you know, I mean, what aren't we doing online these days? So might as well, you know, get some knowledge, learn some stuff.
Totally agree. I love that. So what are some key pieces a summit host needs to get right in their process, in their summit planning process, to make this exposure and boost in brand authority happen?
So there's a lot of moving pieces, as you know, in putting together a virtual summit, but I would say there's probably 5 that I would focus on first. So the first key would just be like verifying your idea, right? The mission of this summit. Why should I care? What problem are you addressing that you're going to solve? Being very clear about, you know, your target audience, you know, the outcome for it. The second key would be define your purpose. So you as the host, like, what is your purpose for hosting this virtual summit? And it could be different things. Like I said, when I started, it was, hey, I just needed to get my name out there, kind of grow my community. Maybe, you know, you're trying to grow your email list, or maybe you're trying to generate more leads and boost your revenue. And I'm not saying that all those things can't happen, but it's better when you have one clear purpose for how you're like building out the actual summit. Because if I'm ultimately trying to generate more money, then my primary focus in building out my summit and things I'm plugging in, I need to be focused on that all access pass. Like, I need to make sure that makes sense, right? I mean, naturally, I'm going to get those emails that are going to come. Naturally, more people are going to see me, but I'm making sure that that's where I'm honing in and putting my focus on there. So that's the second key. The third key would be pitching to speakers. And this is a big piece, because you have to make sure your speakers align with your actual summit, the mission, the message. And I tell people all the time, like, do not blindly pitch to speakers. You can't just pitch to a speaker because they have over 100,000 followers. That just is not going to translate well to in your summit. Yeah, they may have 100,000 followers, but how many of those followers are actually engaged in the content they're delivering? Not all 100,000 are going to transition and sign up for your summit, and you're going to be in front of 100,000 people. Now you have the speaker that doesn't have anything to add really to what you're trying to deliver, other than your vain attempt to get their 100,000 followers. So it's like, no, do not blindly pitch to speakers. Make sure they make sense to what it is you're trying to do. Otherwise, it's not going to be beneficial for either parties. The fourth key is the systems, the management process. That's where I love to jam, because I'm a project management person, so you have to have systems in place. How are you onboarding those attendees? How are you doing the same for your speakers, your team, if you have one? Because trust me, it's online, but it's a lot of moving pieces. And if you don't have that in place, it's just going to be, you know, you're going to be screaming and pulling your hair out, and you're not going to be happy. And it might be hard for the next go round to get some of those people to come back. So you want to make sure that all those things are in place. And then the fifth key would be just, you know, promoting the actual summit. You know, what's your strategy? And it should be more than just posting online and saying, hey, I'm having this, sign up, you know, really being intentional about it. You know, like, how are you going to be promoting? Where are you going to be promoting? And that's going to help, you know, boost engagement and getting your attendees excited about it, and having them, you know, promote the event. Definitely get your speakers part of the process and make it easy for them to promote the event. Like, don't make anybody have to overthink. Anytime people have to overthink, they tune out.
Yes.
So I would say, just to recap, those 5 keys was verifying your idea and your mission. The second key was defining your personal purpose for hosting the event, pitching to speakers, making sure your summit management process is solid and your promotion strategy is ready to go.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love all of these so much, because they tie in not only to creating a great summit experience overall for all 3 parties involved, the hosts, attendees, speakers, but I see exactly how they can all tie right back into building that brand authority. Like, for example, verifying your idea and figuring out, why should people care? Why should they actually come? If you don't tie that into what you want your brand to be known for, who cares, right? Like, it's not doing anything for you, for your brand authority, for getting more course sales in the future. And same thing for your purpose. If you're hosting a summit just to host a summit, that's going to do nothing for you. You have to figure out why you want to do it.
Yeah, you're spending way too much time. And I'm so glad you said that because I feel like in the space we're in now, it does seem like people are hosting things online for the sake of hosting things online. And I get it. Like, hey, we got some things going on with this pandemic and it's forcing everybody to go online and figure it out, but be intentional about it. Because otherwise and hey, I get it. Not everybody has the same mind frame. They don't even, hey, it's something for them to do. They're not using it for any one thing other than to say, hey, meet me online. And that's fine. But for those who are trying to use it as the marketing strategy it really is, you have to make sure you have something in place. Otherwise, you're spending a lot of time to not get any results. And who got time for that?
Yeah. Nope. No one hosting a summit, that's for sure.
Exactly. Nobody. No. If so, you got way too much time on your hands.
I agree. I also love that you brought up speakers because I think it's so tempting to be like, okay, I'm going to host a summit. Who do I want to speak? And just grabbing those first names that come to mind and pitching all those people and not having a strategy. Okay, is this person going to get me more of the types of attendees I want? Are they even going to be willing to promote? Like the person with the 100,000 followers that you mentioned, they're not going to promote unless you happen to be like pretty tight with them and have a good relationship. They're not going to promote. They're not going to do a thing for you other than look pretty on your registration page. And that really does not go as far as people seem to think.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. And that's good because if they have 100,000 followers, why are they going to want to promote? Because a lot of them know that probably why you reached out to me is because I have 100 plus followers and you want me on your summit because you want, all of my people to come over there. And hey, some of my people are going to come over. And I think that's good enough. I don't think I need to post your stuff on my page. I don't need to, so yeah, you don't want to deal with that. It's a headache, so take the time and, don't just grab speakers. Like I said, if you know them and you have that relationship, then absolutely. But other than that, hey, speaker that may make the most sense for your summit, hey, she may have 300 followers, and her audience makes sense for you, you're a good fit. So don't let that be the driving force because you're going to miss out on some great connections if you're only pulling from people that you feel are, big online.
So true. Like I know some people who've hosted summits where they come out of it and they build their list, they make money, but they say the number one best part of that summit was the connections they built. And that comes down to who you're pitching and how you can relate to them and if they'll give you the time of day throughout the process or if you're just bugging them every time you send an email, Okay, something else you mentioned that I wanted to just hit on again was the importance of systems. And you mentioned if your process is a disaster, it's going to be hard to get people to want to come back. And that goes for your attendees if they don't have a great experience and your speakers. And I was just a part of a summit as of recording this about a month ago. There were over 100 speakers. The process was a disaster. Not that it wasn't necessarily a smooth process, but the communication and the way we were treated was not good. And I actually dropped out of it. There's a lot of people that dropped out because of that. But I had some friends who stayed in it and they said at the end, this host was like, and you're all invited back for round 2. And everyone was like, no, thanks. So now that's over 100 people that host can't invite back next time because they're going to be like, see you later because the process was a disaster.
And that's horrible. And I mean, it's part of it. I feel like, you have to communicate and do it off, don't assume someone knows and understands, right? Because you think about, a lot of people get on virtual summits as an attendee. This is their first summit, online. They don't know what to expect. There's a little anxiety around what to do. You ever been to an in-person conference and it's crazy? You don't know what's going on. You don't know where you're supposed to go. The time schedule is crazy. That just kind of kills your vibe. It's man, I was excited. Now I'm here and I'm confused. So you don't want that to be the experience. So I just say have something in process where you're really handling those attendees, from registration to sale to the end, hey, this is what's happening. If you have questions, this is how you submit your questions. How would you like to, what would you like to see in the summit? Is there something particular you would want the speakers to address? Kind of getting them engaged, keeping them excited. And with the speakers, over communicating to them as well. Maybe it's their first summit, maybe it's not. But either way, just hey guys, this is what's going on. Especially if you have questions, I feel like it's very important to always tell people, hey, if you have a question, always raise your hand. This is how you can submit a question. This is how, we're going to get back to you in 24, 48 hours or whatever. Because the summit you're talking about, 100 speakers, that's a lot, right? That's a lot of people. So you want to make sure that like, hey, you're communicating to these people, because nobody wants to feel like they're getting lost in the sauce. Like, like I'm one of 100. I don't want to feel like you don't care. I want to feel like you're excited that I'm here too. And, roll out the virtual red carpet for me. Let me know what's going on. Keep me updated and, make me a big deal.
Yes, virtual red carpet. I love that.
Yeah, like make me a big deal, because it's like, hey, it's 100 people. Like, I'm sure you probably got fresh. It's like, okay, I know it's a lot of people, but I'm feeling like real small here because I don't know what's going on, So, and then like you said, now they have 100 people that they can invite back. And hopefully they gave an opportunity for people to give feedback too. So hopefully they learn from that experience.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay, so we talked about the key pieces someone needs to build brand authority. I love all of those. Can you talk to us a little bit about how creating a really great attendee experience ties into building that brand authority? So how does making that experience a good one then go forward to help you build brand authority better?
So I like to think of it as, similar to like, all my course creators. Like if you ever attended like a great course, the process they go through, like you're in this class because you're going to learn something, right? Like, so you're showing up to this virtual summit because you want to learn something. The speakers and everybody involved are going to share their genius on, how to actually master that thing with whatever skills and techniques they're doing. And then ultimately like, hey, okay, you learned it, you are mastering it. Now this is how you implement it and go off and be great. So I think, building out your summit similar in that way is very helpful, because now it's like, it's clear. Like I'm in here, I'm learning this stuff. They're dropping all the gems, all their genius on how they do this thing. And now I'm ready to go off and implement it and be great. And I'm super excited. Now I can connect with the host or speaker A or B for their service to help me further implement this thing in my business. So if you take them through that, it's a win, right? Otherwise, it's like if you go to something and then everybody just throwing a whole bunch of information at you, like how much of that are you actually like retaining? After a while, like my brain shuts off. I'm not gonna lie. I'd be like, I see you, your mouth's moving. I'm not listening. So, but if you create it in a way where, hey, like I'm learning something, you're teaching me how to master this thing. Now I'm ready to implement it. I'm great. I'm excited. I'm signing up for everything. And it's great. And I think, ultimately that's what people are looking for. They're looking for that. I mean, that's why they signed up. They see all these dope people and they want to learn from them. So make it easy, take them through a process that helps them get from A to B.
Mm-hmm. Are there any like key pieces you see people miss or that they need to hit to make that happen, to create that experience that lets them get from A to B?
Yes, I think sometimes people, when building out their summit, I think that they don't really hone into how everything is translating on the other end. Like I've been a part of some summits where, it's more of like, I want to say interview style, but kind of, but where people like, I feel like sometimes in that style, like people kind of get lost in talking about themselves or, something else. And it doesn't register. And you're just kind of like, okay, well, that's cool. Like I'm learning about your journey. That's great. But I'm not here to necessarily learn about you per se. I want to learn about the thing you say you do. So show me, explain to me how I can be great in this area like you are great in this area. So I think sometimes people just don't spend the necessary time really making sure that they are delivering on the promise of what they started the summit for in the first place. And some of it can just be out of, inexperience and, hey, I've been there. I got some virtual summits horror stories. Like, you're gonna, fall down, bruise your knee and you're going to learn from it. So I get it. So you have to have some grace with some people, but we have some repeat offenders who just keep going out there and putting these things out there, and people are walking away not any more knowledgeable than when they showed up.
Yeah, I see that issue a lot with the interview style summits. And that's why I generally push presentation style, because I feel like you're so much more likely to get an actionable presentation that someone can walk away and implement than if you're not an experienced interviewer trying to interview 20 people. And that's where you get, like you said, the interviews where you walk away and you're like, hey, what was I supposed to do?
Sometimes it's kind of boring, right?
Yeah.
Like you got to think about like your audience. Like, I don't want to show up for a summit and you're just interviewing 20 people, you know, because like you said, it's only so much if you're not a good interviewer, or even if you are a great interviewer, Like, people want presentation, people want visuals. I need, like, or mix it or mix it up. Like, don't have it be all, it doesn't have to necessarily be all or nothing. And I think that's the beauty with like, virtual summits. Like there really is no rule of thumb of like, hey, it has to be this one way. Like, you have to have, 10 or more speakers or, or 20 or 100, you know what I mean? Like there really is no rule. Like you can kind of go in and create your own space and make it work for your audience, for your brand, for your business.
Totally. Oh my goodness. I love that. So what is the biggest takeaway you want listeners to walk away with today?
The biggest takeaway is don't dismiss virtual summit as just a thing everybody is doing. Do not water it down. It definitely is a marketing strategy that can boost, your influence, your credibility, your income. So don't get lost in the sauce in the conversations being held right now with everybody's hosting them. Yes, everybody may be hosting them, but guess what? They're working for those who are doing them right. So I would say that's the biggest takeaway. If you're not, if you're unsure, if you're unfamiliar, like some pretty dope, amazing people out here like myself and Krista that can help you, transform your business and start getting the results you need. And, just ask questions, make sure it makes sense. And if it's done right, trust me, you'll be a repeat offender of hosting virtual summits all the time.
Yes, you'll become addicted quickly.
Yes, quickly. And I mean, people love it. Like, honestly, people actually really love virtual summits, virtual events. Honestly, like I enjoy them too. All the ones that are done great and fun and you can be as creative as you like it's the best.
I totally agree. I love it. Where can people go to learn more about you and what you offer? And I know you have a freebie that we will pop in the show notes too. Tell us a little about that.
So you can, Instagram is where I spend the majority of my time. So at Tyaisha Robinson on Instagram. You can also check out my website, TyaishaRobinson.com, and all things me are there. So definitely come over, say hi. I would love to, connect with some new people online. And yes, I do have a freebie. It's 5 reasons why you should host a virtual summit, all the good fun stuff that I think you should consider if you're on the cuffs about whether or not it's for you or not. But yeah, so that's where you can find me.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. This was all so good. I have all kinds of...
This was so exciting.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. For show notes and resources mentioned, head to summitHostHangout.com/102. In the next episode, we'll be chatting about self-sabotage and how that can show up and tie in with the results of your summit. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Now go out and take action to plan, strategize, and launch your profitable online summit.